Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Let's move on, though, and MPs are calling for a code of ethics to ensure that social media platforms remove harmful content and fake news from their sites. A major new report calls for an independent regulator to start policing social media companies. The Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee wants a new compulsory code for all platforms to follow. The independent regulator would have powers to launch legal action against companies who breach that code. The committee also calls on the government to reform current electoral communications laws and rules on overseas involvement in UK elections. And for social media companies to take down known sources of harmful content, including proven sources of fake news. And well, Facebook has released a statement in response to the report. It says this: "We are open to meaningful regulation and support the committee's recommendation for electoral law reform. While we still have more to do, we are not the same company we were a year ago. We have tripled the size of the team working to detect and protect users from bad content to 30,000 people and invested heavily in machine learning, artificial intelligence and computer vision technology to help prevent this type of abuse." Well, we're joined now by the Conservative Chairman of the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee, Damien Collins. Mr Collins, good to see you. First and foremost, what's your response to that statement from Facebook? Because, to be fair, this report could some have taken it as, in essence, a report about Facebook. There's a lot more in it, of course, but you are pretty damning themselves.
We are on Facebook, and I think with good reason. I think we felt throughout the inquiry that it was difficult to get information out of them on some of the key things we asked them about, like Russian interference in elections through Facebook, about the amount of user data they gather and share with other partners, and indeed even what they knew about the Cambridge Analytica data breach scandal that emerged last year, that we never got straight answers from them. And as the inquiry went on, we discovered more and more. So there was a bit of lack of trust, a breach of trust there. And I think then the failure of Mark Zuckerberg himself, I think, to take personal responsibility by appearing not just in front of our committee, but in front of a special international committee that we assembled to question him. And I think, you know, he ultimately is the person that knows everything that goes on at Facebook, and the frustration you constantly face when you can get to talk to someone in the business is that they either don't know the answers, they can't give you straight answers, and you know, you're in a real mess. But one of the things we want to get away from is this system where investigations identify harmful content on Facebook, or we have a tragic case like the death of Molly Russell, who'd been exposed to sort of harmful images on Instagram. The company apologises, says it's removed the content, and then it happens again. They say they're investing in these new systems to help identify more of this harmful content, but it's still there. And I think we can't be in a position where we're reliant on the goodwill of tech companies in California. We should say in our own country, this is what the laws are. We can have a statutory code of ethics. These are the standards we expect you to meet. If you fail, there is an independent regulator that will assess your performance and take action if appropriate.
Just tell us a little bit more about this code of ethics. I mean, what sort of behaviour are you wanting to outlaw?
So I think when we talk about harmful content, some of that's already illegal. So it could be illegal images of children, it could be films that encourage people to join terror organisations. There's then a separate category of things that are harmful but not necessarily illegal. So, and I think, you know, cyberbullying would be a good example of that, but also, you know, extreme disinformation, being maliciously targeted at people. And in those cases, what we should say to the companies are two things. One is, when this content's referred to you, you've got to take it down. But secondly, you should use your technology to help identify this content for yourselves, because you're best placed to do that. But if you fail, there's a sanction that can be levied against you. This is not that dissimilar from the way regulation works in broadcasting.
But in terms of, you're not making these things illegal, but you are making them actionable. Does that, are you sitting entirely comfortably with that? So
I think what we're doing is we're ending the platform neutral status that the tech companies enjoy. Because in the past, what they've largely said is if there's illegal content on the platform, it's the responsibility of the person that put it there. But what we're saying is actually the tech companies are responsible too, because they curate the space. When you go onto Facebook, what you see is content that Facebook thinks you're interested in and is serving for you.
Moving on just specifically from Facebook, again, you're pretty damning on the state of electoral law at the moment. You touch on it in the report, but what is your assessment of the level of foreign interference that there has been in elections and referendums of late?
So what we've been able to identify is, in many ways, the low-hanging fruit, which is paid-for advertising by foreign agencies. And in the case of Russia, that's been identified. We've seen more of it in America than we've been able to discover in the UK, but it's been going on. I think the next challenge here is the role of fake accounts. Fake accounts are largely the problem for sharing information. And my concern is fake accounts and fake groups are spreading organically vast quantities of disinformation, and that's much harder for us to detect at the moment.
And they're targeting it, they're micro-targeting it as well. I mean, you mentioned Cambridge Analytica a little bit earlier. I mean, isn't the truth? I mean, Cambridge Analytica is the tip of the iceberg, that there are plenty of other organisations out there using data to target adverts for political and other purposes.
Absolutely. What Cambridge Analytica were doing that seems to be not unique but different from what other companies were doing was aggregating huge quantities of data as well as Facebook data to create psychological profiles of people and then to micro-target adverts based on an assessment of someone's psychological profile. And I think the big question there is people's political beliefs, are protected in data law. If they don't willingly share what they think about an issue or an election or a party, then they don't have to. But what Facebook has enabled companies like Cambridge Analytica to do is effectively guess by analysing someone's data and then targeting them with information. And my concern is a lot of the hate that is shared online, a lot of the divisiveness in our society today is being driven by these companies exploiting social media.
I mean, it's pretty clear that you feel that these social media companies, some of them have treated the committee with disdain. You actually suggest that Zuckerberg treated you with contempt. But in terms of specifically fake news, wouldn't it be rather better if we were all rather more aware at detecting when a piece of information presented to us as news is in fact utterly unverifiable?
So I think this is absolutely right. I think, but users need the tools to help them identify that content. About half the people in this country get their news through social media. If someone's shared a news story, if a friend of yours has shared a story with you they've seen, and it may be from a news organisation, it looks official, but maybe it's not one you've heard of before, you might think, well, my friend shared it with me and I trust them, therefore I trust this. There's nothing on that piece of content that in some ways raises a flag, and the technology exists to create these sorts of tools. And what we're saying in the report is the tech companies should either create this for themselves or bring in an external provider. We've cited the example of a company called NewsGuard, which creates a traffic lighting system for organisations. So if you're looking at a story from a certain organisation, you can see, well, is it a green light organisation or a red light organisation? And therefore use your judgment as to whether you're going to trust what you're about to read.
Damien Collins, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.